For those of you who don't know me, my name is Eric Eulis, and I work in human resources. I work with the leaves of absence team, and we are, as you guys all are aware, implementing a new system for leaves of absence. And part of this new system called Broadspire is that as direct supervisors of individuals, you'll be able to log into the system and see leaves of absence status for individuals in real time. So you'll be able to see if somebody turned in paperwork, if they didn't. And so to sort of give us a training and an overview of that is Courtney and Robin here with Broadspire. If you have any questions during the presentation, go ahead and put those in the chat. And then we'll have some general Q&A that you can ask questions just generally about Broadspire to me at the end. If you have any questions about the portal while we're going through the training, go ahead and ask those directly in the chat while the training is going on. So Robin and Courtney, I will turn it over to you. And it looks like Courtney's muted again.
I'll start though. I had just a brief overview.
Okay.
As Eric indicated, Broadspire will be taking over the leave administration effective 7/1, but we will also be taking over leaves in progress that were prior to 7/1. And so one of the first things we also just wanted to make sure you were aware is just how your employees will communicate with us, and then also how you can communicate with us should you have questions. So I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Courtney to just give a quick brief overview of communication process for you, and then we'll jump right into how to register for the Broadspire portal, and then how to navigate within the portal to find the information you need for those employees that report to you. Courtney?
And Courtney, I just turned on screen sharing, so you might want to, if you need to share, you should be able to now.
There we are. All right. Thank you, everybody. And can everyone see my screen just to confirm?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. So as Eric mentioned, my name is Courtney Pascum. I am the account executive here at Broadspire. So want to make sure that you have the proper resources and reference materials when you are reaching out to Broadspire for any inquiries. So what we have done is created these client instructions. So this is a great reference tip for you to go ahead and refer to when you have inquiries. So we do have a dedicated phone number, fax number, and this is to reach our claim intake center. So anytime any employee or yourself needs to report a claim, has questions, you are more than welcome to go ahead and contact our 24/7 call intake center. Fax number is here as well for any documentation that needs to be provided to Broadspire. We also have this email address. So that's broadspiredisability@choosebroadspire.com. Now, this is a mailbox that we typically utilize for manager inquiries, HR inquiries. This is not something that should be provided to employees for any sort of questions or for reaching out to us. We definitely want to make sure that employees are utilizing our claim intake phone number as well as their case managers when they do have questions. Another tip that you can go ahead and give employees to inquire any sort of information is also our self-service portal. So that's something that we will be diving into here shortly, but that is www.myleavetech.com. And if you go ahead and reference that, you will be able to, oops, there we go, be able to view all of the employees who report up to you, as well as employees who want to access their information. They have that access level using that web address. Contact numbers here as well for the team members. So employee inquiry process. So first level of sending inquiries is making sure that we go ahead and access the portal. Again, www.myleavetech.com. We'll go through and show you how to leave a claim note. This is also something that you can educate employees on for communicating with their specialists. They are also able to reach their claim manager's personal extension. So that's going to be included in their initial paperwork of how they can go ahead and contact their case manager. We do always recommend that leaving a voicemail with their contact information is the preferred method if they do need to ask any questions or give a brief description of any sort of context of what their inquiry is regarding. And again, making sure that we do not provide employees with that Broadspire disability mailbox. Again, this is reserved for HR and managers interaction. And there is a team of client liaisons who are dedicated to managing this inbox, making sure that we are answering questions, responding back to any inquiries. That team is fully staffed to go ahead and handle those. And then for managers, so when you do have a question, a claim-related question, those should all be directed to the Broadspire Disability mailbox. And any sort of questions regarding any sort of portal issues that you're having, this could be a password issue, you are unable to log into the portal, anything, again, portal related is going to be sent over to our Broadspire portal support at choosebroadspire.com. That is where those inquiries are going to go. We also do have a tech ops team who manages that inbox for quick turnarounds and make sure that you have access to the system. When it comes to any sort of escalation, so if we have an urgent issue that is coming up, we always want to make sure that we mark those as urgent in the subject line, and those are still going to ensure that be sent to the Broadspire Disability box. Again, our staff is there monitoring that box, but anything that they see as high priority as urgent, of course, that takes precedence and priority. When it comes to any sort of business or account inquiries, those should be directed towards me, the account executive. And again, our contact information is at the top. And if there is anything regarding service expectations or anything regarding the account management, those should be directed towards myself as well as our Director of Operations. And again, all of that information is included on the sheet with those points of contact up here.
Just one quick point of clarification, if I could, for managers here. If you still have issues with an employee that has leaves of absence, you can still reach out to the leaves of absence team, myself, Dawn, or Janet. I don't want anybody to think that Broadspire is taking the place of that in terms of escalation. Certainly you can ask Broadspire questions about a person's leave, but if you're having a major issue, you can still reach out to the leaves team here at Columbus City Schools HR.
Thank you, Eric. Yep, definitely that partnership. Okay, so next we are going to dive into the portal. So again, web address for that portal is www.myleavetech.com. We have noticed that the best web browsers to utilize this web address is going to be Google Chrome. It tends to run a little bit faster on Google Chrome. So this is your login page. For first-time users, you want to make sure that you are going ahead and clicking the Activate Login. Once you go ahead and input your email address, it's going to send you a email to the email address that you input into the system. It's going to send you a temporary password. Please keep an eye out for that email address. If you do not see it within 24 hours, definitely check your junk or spam folder. It does tend to pop up into there as a first-time recipient of that email, so definitely check there. If there is an instance where you are unable to activate your login, definitely go ahead and reach out to that Broadspire portal support email address, and they will be able to assist you with activating your login. All right, so next we are going to jump into the portal. So once you have success, oh, go ahead, sorry, Eric.
I'm sorry, one quick question. When will our folks be receiving, our managers here be receiving their emails?
So Eric, they won't get an initial email like the super users, but they will have to do the login to the portal and click on the activation to get those emails.
Okay.
And then we already provided the portal instructions as well, Eric. So I didn't know if you wanted to, I don't know if you post them somewhere that those people can have. So in addition to the training, they might have that document to refer to as well.
Okay, now what date would you like folks to go in and activate their accounts?
So they can actually, we've completed loading, Eric, so anytime now, but I think officially we told everybody tomorrow, which is Thursday.
Oh, perfect. Okay, thank you.
Perfect. So once you have gone through all of those fun steps of activating your login, making sure that you receive that temporary password email, and you are prompted to then update your temporary password to a more familiar password, you will be brought to this landing page. So this is going to be the page where you can go ahead and see information. Let me pull this up quickly. So one of the benefits that you have on the portal is you are able to view the employees who report up to you, but you also have access to view your information. So you will see here that any employees who roll up to you, you have access to see them, but they do not have access to see your information. So it's kind of a two-way portal. So if for any managers who do have their own leave of absence claims, those are accessible on the same view. So you can see here, we are using this test person for demonstration purposes. So this would be your name here, and this would be an indicator of how many claims you have. And then under this search bar would go ahead and list all of the employees who report up to you. So kind of think of this as a Google search. Name, department, employee identification number, all of that information is loaded into our system, and you are able to search any part of that to go ahead and pull up your employees.
And just one quick thought here. So if for some reason there is an employee who reports to you that does not show up in your list, we get the information based on who reports to who on a daily eligibility file. So in the case that somebody might transfer between groups or something like that, we would have to wait for that information to come through to us with that update before that new employee would show up in your list. So if you have a situation like that that occurs, you might want to, I don't know, Eric, if it would be appropriate to check with you or just to make sure that information's been updated within the system.
Correct. If someone is not appearing and they're a longtime employee and you know they have a leave, reach out to us in HR.
Perfect. All right, so let's go through a couple quick hits of information up here, and then we can start diving into some claim information. So first section here, again, landing pages here. You see the Columbus City logos here. This is also going to be utilized as your back button or your home button. And anytime you hit this logo here at the top, it's going to take you right back here to this landing page. So our summary section. So this is going to be a reference point for you to view any sort of absences in a calendar view of your employees, as well as you also have a opportunity to see an absence claim list. So for instance, if we wanted to go into this absence claim list, any employees that you report up to you, you have the ability to do some filtering when it comes to the reports. So for instance, if you wanted to see all of your employees who were out on a continuous leave of absence, an intermittent leave of absence, anybody with a pending claim, open claim, and bear with me, it loads a little bit slower when I am sharing my screen. You are able to go ahead and view all of this information on the portal, and it's also able to then export it into a CSV file as well. Right, so you can see here, so if I wanted to view everybody who had a continuous leave of absence, we'd go ahead and type continuous here, and it would pull up everybody who has a continuous leave of absence. Put that here. So you can see here, there is different reason types, different leave types, status of the claim. So say, for instance, we want to see everybody who had an open claim, that would pull up every single open claim. If we wanted to see every claim that was open and approved, that would go ahead and pull up all of the approved absences for an employee. Any questions in regards to the absence claim list that you wanted to ask? Again, this is something that is very interactive. You're able to go into that field, type, and it would start populating based upon the selection that you input into the system. If we wanted to see everybody who was on a bonding leave, you can see it'll pull up all that information as well. Any questions here? Okay. Next, we're going to go back. This absence calendar, like I said, bear with me, this is loading everybody, so it may be a little slow. So basically what happens is it provides you with a calendar view of everybody who is on a leave of absence. You can see up top here that it is filtering by everybody who is on a continuous, intermittent, reduced schedule. And then it also allows you to filter it by status. So again, just as we were doing with the reports, anybody who has an open claim, a pending claim, denied, close claim, all of that information is has the ability to be filtered. You will see once this does load that it goes into a calendar form, and each employee is represented by a different color for easy management. So how would this relate to you, and how would you be able to use this information on a day-to-day basis? You can see here, there's a lot of people here on leave of absences. So again, everybody is broken down into a specific color. This particular account and employees for this test purposes, they are able to view all the employees within the CCS organization. So again, this would be very minimal to the specific employees who roll up under you. It would only show those employees. So very, very large when you can see all employees. But for that subset of employees who report specifically to you, this would be much smaller, and this calendar would not look like a crayon box. It would be much more organized in date form.
Can you filter it so it just shows us a few people?
Let's see here. So if we wanted to view everybody on a continuous, let's see here, let's see the smallest one. So you can see this list would be much smaller, and of course this calendar is still quite large because it views all employees. But you can see here that this would be a line here showing those employees' absences. So any employee who had a continuous leave of absence and that absence was canceled, it would go ahead and populate on this screen here. Any questions here? I think once everybody starts logging in and clicking around, you will see that this calendar form, again, reduces the size, and it is much smaller and much more interactive when it has just a smaller subset of employees who report directly up to you. But certainly if there's any questions after the portal training, I'm more than happy to go ahead and walk through additional steps with this. Again, you can use that back button or the home button here using that logo. So next, there is additional reference materials on here. If you go to the forms and information section here, again, that bubble on the right indicates how many claims or documents and items are located within that section.
Courtney, we have a question, sorry.
Oh, yes.
Generally, and this is from Michelle Brooks, she's a supervisor in transportation. What is the turnaround time for the information to be available on the portal site?
It is done in real time. So all of that information is updated in real time. So for instance, if you had an employee who had reported FMLA time today intermittently for 8 hours, once that time is submitted to Broadspire and is submitted into our system, that would automatically transpire within the absence calendar in real time. So everything is done again in real time once those enhancements and additions are made.
And so Michelle, also just to provide a little bit more detail, if somebody applies for a leave in real time, it'll say that they've started the application process and it's pending. Once it's approved, the direct supervisor of the employee will receive notification via email, and they will also in real time see that it's been approved in the portal as well, if that helps to answer that question. Okay, thank you.
Perfect.
I think we're
Thank
good.
you. Awesome. All right, so additionally, again, that forms and information section, this is going to be a section where you would go ahead and you refer to any additional documentation that is CCS related or specific information that an employee would need at their fingertips. So for instance, EAP information, maternity support, use of leave and benefits during a leave of absence, as well as the catastrophic leave application. These forms are also included in initial packets based upon the different reason for leave when an employee does apply for it. But again, this is an additional resource where they are able to access this information as well as download it. And again, all this information is also included in the initial packets depending on the reason. So next we are going to go to that next section. There is also the help and support section. So as we mentioned before, that Broadspire portal support at choosebroadspire.com, that is going to be the email address that employees and managers and everyone uses for any sort of issues in relation to the portal. Again, that can vary from password issues, any issue that if you're receiving an error message or anything like that, those would all be sent to that email box here. Then we also have this phone number here. This is going to be directly connected to our claim intake center. Any questions, or if there is someone who is needing to initiate a claim, those would go ahead and be directed to our claim intake center for our staff to go ahead and assist with that. I do want to mention as well, the portal is accessible via phone, tablet, computer. It will go ahead and format based upon the device that the employee is accessing this information from. So next we are going to hop into, for instance, again, we are using this task person for demonstration purposes, but we would go ahead and see this as your own claim. If I'm a manager, I file my own claim, I would be able to access my information as well as employees' information on the portal. And again, just to reiterate, employees do not have access to your information. It is a one-way channel based upon the setup of this. So if I wanted to view my own absences, I would be able to go ahead and think of it as a funnel. So very general at the top, and then as we slowly move down and further into the portal, it will become more claim specific information. So here you will see that this is the employee that we are viewing, this task person here. You are able to view absence claims as well as workplace accommodation requests. And you are also able to view the absence time summary as well. So this is going to give you pie charts and of the entitlement. So every absence type that you may be eligible for once you are approved, this would all go ahead and be deducted out of your entitlement bucket. So 104 weeks here, 16 weeks here. We know FMLA, if we keep scrolling down, is 12 weeks here. So if you ever had a question of how much time do I have left or how much time have I used, this feature is available to go ahead and view on the portal. You are also able to view the regulations. So if there's any sort of questions, I know for FLA, common questions are, well, what are the requirements and what is the eligibility? Again, 12 months of service, 1,250 hours. All of that would be accessible if you just hit that regulations button here. And it would go ahead and pull up the FMLA leave entitlement. So all of that information is outlined here. Great reference point if anybody does have questions or wants to get a refresher on those FMLA guidelines, as well as the absence specifications of what those family members are, as well as the length of time provided and the calendar type. You can also see here that those charts on the side, those little key is going to be light green for pending, approved is dark green, red is deducted, and blue is remaining. So we're going to scroll up here back to the top. Let's go ahead and view an absence claim. So here you can see that you are able to view all of the absences that you have filed here with Broadspire. So you can see here, absence claim here. So all of our claim numbers start with AC for absence claim, followed by the year and claim number. So this whole thing here is going to be that claim number. You can go ahead and see that the absence is open. It is for adoption foster care, and it is an intermittent leave of absence. Start date is June 1st. End date is Friday, September 30th. You can see here, this line here is going to give you a clear indicator of, again, think of previously that key here with the absences. Think of that same thing here. So red clearly means something is wrong. There's been time that's been not approved. Orange would be pending, and then blue is part of the shutdown period as well. I know with DCS, you have times of the year when you are not in school and actively working. So that would be part of a shutdown period. So let's go ahead and view, let's take a look at an intermittent claim. You are also able, employees also have the ability to report claims online. We do strongly recommend that for first-time reporters, those should all be done via our phone number at our claim intake. That is a customized script. So you are not going to get a full subset of questions reporting on the portal. It would be just a very small subset of questions for pertinent information to get the claim created. Going ahead and reaching our intake service allows you to get the full intake experience with customized questions, as well as the ability to also ask questions with the intake representative that you do speak with.
And just a reminder that the first time they also give their preferred communication email address and phone number. And so they need that email address in order to register for the portal. So that's why the very first time they need to make sure that their first claim in the system to us is done via the intake center.
Yes. Thank you, Robin.
Mhm.
Okay, so going into this claim here. So again, claim number is going to be here at the top with that AC number. We know that the reason for this leave is adoption foster care. Leave type is intermittent. Status is opened. No denial date or close reason as this claim is currently open. Created date is when that claim was created, called in, or created on the portal, so that would populate here. No return to work date, as you can see that there is an intermittent claim, so no return to work date. But for continuous claims, we'll dive into that, and that would populate a return to work date. We do have an estimated return to work date of October 1st. And here you can see that the owner of this claim is Isabel. This is where you would have your case manager's information. So if you ever had a question, who is managing your claim, you would be able to view that information on the portal, and that would also be included in the initial packet that you do receive from us. Next, we are going to go down into the dates summary section. So this is going to give you an overview of all of the time that has been reported for that specific claim. So you can see here that we have twice every month, and this is for indicating the parameter. So this employee is allowed to take off twice every month. You can see here that time has been pending, and then there's also been that time frame of when there was a shutdown period. Again, this is for test purposes, so this may not be completely accurate. These are just some dates that we put in here. For federal FMLA and the date details, this is going to show you the specific absence type that this employee would be eligible for. So you can see here that this is for federal FMLA. And all of that time would be deducted out of that federal FMLA entitlement, those 12 weeks, based upon that employee's time taken. So for instance, if I am this test person and I want to take some time off against my intermittent claim, I would be able to go ahead and hit this add time function. So there are two ways to report time off to Broadspire. One is by contacting our intake center to report that intermittent time, as well as adding time on the portal. So if you were to hit that add time button and say, I wanted to take 8 hours for today, I'm going to be missing my entire shift. It would be from 8 a.m. until 4:30 p.m. I am in Central Time Zone here. And then I would go ahead and hit save. And I know that was a question of how often and how the information updated into the system, what was that frequency? So again, as I mentioned, this is in real time. So I am going to be adding this time directly into the portal. So this is going straight into our system. It would go ahead and generate an add time email letting you know that time has been reported. Oops, so this is part of a shutdown period. Let's try, say, September 1st to September 1st, 8 hours.
So just for the shutdown periods, we're getting the various calendars for all employees and they're loaded into the system. So that's what would happen if for some reason someone was putting a typo in and tried to say they were taking a day off on a day that they were not scheduled to be working.
Yep. So as you can see here, that save was complete and again, updated in real time. So that add time email would go ahead and be generated. And then you can see here as a new line item. So Thursday, September 1st, 2022, that was reported for 8 hours and that time is pending. So I hope that answers the question that all updates are made in real time within the system. Next, we are going to run through. So as we went through during the client instructions at the very beginning of the call, different ways of communicating with Broadspire. So we do have this feature here. It is a new note feature. So this is a way that you are able to communicate with your case manager or with the case manager from a manager's perspective. You are able to leave any details that you find necessary in order to communicate with a specialist or for something for them to review. So for instance, if I knew that I needed to recertify my leave of absence, I have a doctor's appointment coming up, I need to be able to take that recertification paperwork to my physician to have that completed to get some additional time on my FMLA intermittent absence. I would go ahead and just say, can you please send me the recertification paperwork? I would go ahead and hit save. And again, those updates are made in real time, so you can see that that was saved. And it is letting you know that you left a note letting your case manager know that, can you please send me the recertification paperwork? So this is going to send an instant notification over to your case manager, letting them know that an action has been made on the portal. And then they would go ahead and take those necessary steps of sending you that recertification paperwork per your request. You also have the ability, so say you went ahead, sent that portal note, your case manager sent you that recertification paperwork, you went to the doctor, had all that paperwork filled out by your physician, and now you need to send it back to us. So as we mentioned before, there is a fax number to go ahead and send those documents over to Broadspire. Your doctor can do that as well as yourself if you need to turn in paperwork. You can fax that over, or you can go ahead and use this attach file function here. You are able to either have it saved as a PDF or as a picture on your phone. You can go ahead and upload those documents over to us, and then it would instantly send that notification just as you see here with this new note function over to your case manager. Any questions here of any of the information that we went through? I want to make sure that we can start diving into viewing employees' information, but anything that you have questions on in relation to viewing your information on the portal. Feel free to continue to leave questions and comments in that chat and we can answer those. Definitely one of those things where once you start logging into the system, clicking around and getting yourself more familiar, you can go ahead and get yourself more up to speed with how it works. So I see calling off for the day. So specifically calling off for the day. So again, if you know that you have an intermittent claim or you need to file an intermittent claim for calling off for the day, and that claim would be FMLA specific, you can go ahead and contact Broadspire via the intake phone number to report your time, or you can go ahead and add it on the portal using that add time function.
So I want to clarify, Courtney. So I think the person is asking about the Columbus City School requirement for calling off. Eric, I think initially the employee is required to put the information regarding that time off initially, at least within the CCS system as well.
So to answer Michelle's question, they still need to follow all local call-off procedures. So if transportation requires that they call you directly, then they would still do that. And then the time would be, put in Chronos appropriately. And then one thing that we are still working on is when they need to mark their intermittent leave time or call off for the day with an approved leave, they would also need to enter it into Broadspire. That is a bit of a point of contention with our unions right now. And we are working to see if there's an automated way to get that information transferred over from either Chronos or Red Rover.
Thank you, Eric, for the clarification.
Perfect. All right, so again, using that back button or that home button, I'm going to go ahead and use that Columbus City Schools logo, and it is going to take me back to that landing page for the portal. So again, I am going to use, so we went through the summaries, forms, and information and help and support section. We also went ahead and went through looking at your own claim within the system. And now we are going to review what it looks like to view an employee's claim within the system. So one caveat that I want to mention is that you are not able to view employees' paperwork. But if there was an instance where you had your own claim and you wanted to view your paperwork, you do have access to that. So for compliance reasons, HIPAA reasons as well, you are not able to view employees' paperwork, but you are able to view your paperwork. One thing I would like to mention, if you want to educate your employees letting them know that they are able to log onto the portal for themselves, and they are able to obtain a copy of their paperwork and view any paperwork that was uploaded to the portal that they submitted. So they do have the ability, but as managers, you do not have that ability to view that information. So let's take a look at an employee. So for instance, again, for demonstration purposes, we are using test information here. So say I had an employee that I wanted to look up, I would go ahead and either search their name, employee ID, department, and then I would go ahead and pull that information up here. I would go ahead and click on that employee. And again, it really follows that same format as if you are viewing your own claim. So great way to get familiar. It is very similar to that format. Again, absence claims, accommodation requests, as well as those buckets. So going about your day-to-day business, if you had questions on, well, how much time does this employee have? How much time have they used? What's their current status of their entitlements and what they are allowed? All of that information is here. Again, pending, approved, deducted, remaining, and those regulations buttons all remain the same. So let's take a look. If I wanted to view their absence claims, again, same format here, claim number, open, start date, end date, what the reason is, and that type of claim is here as well. So you can see here we have 3 weeks pending, but here we have 1 week and 8 hours that is denied or deducted. So let's take a look here. So you can see here, employee-owned injury or illness, and it is continuous. It is status of open, no denial dates or close reason. Again, this claim remains open. Continuous leave of absence. So here you can see that this employee has not yet returned to work yet. So if you are looking to see where an employee is and you do not have a return to work date here, that is a clear indicator that this employee has not yet been cleared to return to work yet. They are still out. But this estimated return to work date here is available for you to view of when you can expect that employee back to work. Again, information remains the same. The claim owner, case manager is going to be listed here. And you can see here that those date summaries. So for instance, start date is October 3rd, end date is October 31st. You can see here, so this is a great indicator of tracking employees' absences and understanding their absence summaries. So from October 3rd until October 23rd, this employee is pending approval of 3 weeks. You can see here from October 24th until the 31st, the time frame of 1 week, 8 hours, so 1 week, 1 day. That status is exhausted, meaning that they have exhausted their 12-week entitlements. Here you can see that those also remain the same. So this is being deducted out of their federal FMLA. So again, putting this into perspective to your day-to-day, how you would go ahead and review this. You can see that these are the date summaries, and you can see that this employee's date details are being covered under FMLA. So again, that October 3rd, October 23rd, that is pending certification to go ahead and either approve or deny this time. And then anything outside of that 23rd date, so the 24th until the 31st, that time would be exhausted. So I know there is a question, will their intermittent FMLA deny a request if it's not listed as part of their approved documentation?
What you mean by that is
Yes.
if the dates are not within the
Like that
frequency and
certification.
duration of an intermittent so they have an intermittent claim and they say they can have 2 days off a month for 8 hours each, and you're saying if they take a third day within their frequency duration, I think, is that what your question is? Yes.
Yes, okay.
So what we have worked out with Eric in terms of the process that we'll use is that the employee will be allowed to take 3 instances outside of their frequency and duration. Those 3 initial times will be waived, meaning that they will be allowed. However, should they do a 4th day outside of their frequency and duration, they will be asked to recertify to update their frequency and duration. So
Mm.
it's sort of a one-time waive for that particular frequency and duration.
And just to clarify, that is industry standard, and that is how we looked at people being outside of frequency and duration before. So if somebody came to us and said, I think this person's exceeding frequency and duration, typically we'd give them about 3 days to be outside of it. The problem being is that if you enforce it very strictly, sometimes the Department of Labor can come back on you if it gets that far. So the industry standard is usually about 3 days, and that's typically the grace period or the wiggle room that we had given folks in the past. Now, each time they exceed it, Robin, remind me, you'll call them or remind them that, hey, you've exceeded your frequency and duration.
Yeah, we send them a note telling them that it has been exceeded, but that we're waiving it for the initial timeframes. But on the fourth one, they'll get a notification that they have now exceeded their frequency and duration. And in order for that particular fourth time to be approved, they will need to recertify their paperwork to include the new time frame that would allow for that frequency, increased frequency and duration.
So
if they do not provide the paperwork, then that day would be denied.
correct. So long story short, if once they hit their fourth day, Broadspire will ask them for a updated doctor's note. If they do not provide it within a certain time frame, then it will be denied.
Perfect. Thank you, Eric. All right. So jumping back into the portal, again, we went through the different times that are being reported and how that information is transpired as far as statuses. We went through the date details of how you can distinguish, if there's a Columbus City Schools leave, company leave, or if there is a federal FMLA leave. Those can also run concurrent, so those will be broken down specifically to what those specific dates are. You are also able to see, you can follow that new note function as well, just as we went through for your own claim. That also applies to if you are viewing an employee's claim as well. So for instance, if we know that there is going to be an update, or the employee's been is not going to be returning to work, any sort of information that you have pertaining to that employee that you feel that you need to speak with the case manager about, or needs to be relayed over to Broadspire, certainly go ahead and use that new note function as well. All right, we're going to go back here. So then we are also going to view an intermittent claim as well. So here again, it follows the exact same format of all the previous claims that we have looked at. And again, you are able to see that time that is reported as well for any sort of intermittent absences. Again, you can see here that this time is pending, this time is approved, and that will go ahead and reflect as employees continue to add time to their claim and what those different statuses are. Claims are also able to be reported on behalf of the employee using that new absence claim. Eric, I definitely will look to you for guidance on that. I'm assuming that the preferred method of having claims reported is going to be on the employee's behalf. I know that there are certain situations where employees are unable to report claims that managers do, but I know that the standard here at Broadspire is to make sure that employees are reporting their own leave of absence claims.
That is correct.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Through the appropriate channels. And that's, for those listening, that is, we're referring strictly to Broadspire. They still have the obligation to let you know when they will not be at work and follow local call-off procedures. Yep.
Also wanted to mention too, so everything in the portal, of course, goes into our absence management system. Do want to make sure that I put a caveat out there that anything that is input into the claim is subject to, if anything does go to court, anything from a legality perspective, all of that information is accessible and viewable from a compliance perspective. So wanting to make sure too that here at Broadspire, our standard is that if an employee, FMLA is an employee's responsibility to make sure that they are staying compliant and following all of the regulations and requirements. So If you have an employee who is saying, well, I can't turn my paperwork in, we definitely want to make sure that we communicate that it is not the preferred method to have you upload employees' paperwork or send employees' paperwork on their behalf. From a compliance perspective, again, it is something that is their responsibility. Any notes that you leave or any sort of comments that are made within the portal, again, is subject to being viewed in court. So want to just make sure that we always recommend that everything stays appropriate. And that goes for employees as well. Appropriate language, appropriate comments and feedback, all of that is viewable. So want to make sure that I put that caveat out there.
So as we're a public agency, everyone's very familiar with things being a public record. So thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you.
All right, so next we want to go through, so if you wanted to view an employee's workplace accommodation, so that would be under that accommodations request section here. You would be able to click on that, and then very similar to the absence claim, you are able to view that claim number starting with A for accommodation. You can see that that status is open, as well as that start date.
And just a quick note for the managers, Broadspire will also be handling the intake of accommodations. You probably won't deal with this piece a lot, but if there ever is an accommodation through the legal office for one of your staff, you can look it up here and see not the medical details, but details related to the accommodation.
You would be able to see here all of that accommodation. So start date, there would be an end date here. Of course, you can see that these are pending, but if there was ever a request for, equipment, change to the workplace, accessible materials, any sort of request that would be made by the employee, all that information would be here. And again, follow start date, end date, any details pertaining to that. Different accommodation types can be placed, based upon those needs and have different start and end dates. So all of that information would be outlined here. Again, you're not able to see any notes and attachment features for those employees, but again, employees would have access to view that information. And again, that new note function still applies, as well as that attach file function as well. Again, going back, you can see that other one here. All of that information is the same. So I know that we've gone through all of the specific information that you would need to access on a day-to-day and kind of the ins and outs of the portal. I'm sure everybody will have questions once they get a little bit more familiar and start logging into the system. But anything that anybody has now that we want to go over or ask questions on, certainly feel free. If there's anything you want me to go over again, I am more than happy to do so. But I'll pause here in case anybody has anything they want to add. Eric, feel free if you have any scenarios, common scenarios that we want to kind of go through. I know that we did that in a couple other sessions, but I think we kind of dove into everything that managers would need on a day-to-day to go ahead and view those absences and those claims.
Sure. So I just want to emphasize to everybody that no one is being asked to use this system to report anything or do anything compliance-wise. I know that everybody has enough to do as it is. This is just a tool to help you. If you want to know the status of somebody's leave that reports directly to you, you can look it up here in the website rather than having to call or email the leaves team and then possibly wait for us to get back to you. Using this tool now, you can look it up directly and instantly and see what someone's leave status is. Or if you have a question about it, like you can ask Broadspire, hey, is this person, they're supposed to be coming back to work in 3 days. I've not heard anything from them. Are they going to? You can leave a note for Broadspire. Broadspire will let you know what they've heard from the person. And then if you go into this portal and you don't understand some stuff, feel free to reach out to the leaves team. We are still here to help you and support you with everything as we have before, but this is just an additional tool to help you with personnel issues and seeing when somebody is out on a leave of absence.
Perfect. Thank you, Eric. I think that is all of the information that we have today, unless Robin, you have anything in addition to add. I think we covered everything.
Nope, I just wanted to ask Eric, the portal instructions we provided you, are those someplace that the managers could get access to in case they did have a question about registering, or it does have some basic instructions for how to move back around in the portal should they, a month from now want to log in and have forgotten anything that we might have, shown them today.
So I have those. I will send those. I will send those out to the group right after this meeting, along with a link to the video recording of the training.
Okay, and then I did see there's one more question. Does Broadspire reach out to employees who may need to make updates, or is it on the employee? Well, I think it depends on what kind of updates you're referring to, Michelle. So just a sort of a quick overview of the process. So the employee reports their claim through the intake center. Immediately upon that confirmation of the end of the call, then an eligibility packet, initial packet is sent to the employee, and we check eligibility, and then that claim is assigned to a case manager. Once that claim is assigned to the case manager, when they get that, the employee gets that initial packet, it tells them how long they have to return the paperwork to Broadspire. We do reach out to them midpoint if we haven't seen the paperwork yet, to remind them that paperwork is due to us. And then at the end of the time frame, we indicate that they've exceeded that time frame if that is what's happened, but we do give them a reminder that they do need to provide that paperwork. And then we do follow up with them also prior to returning to work, I think it's 5 days prior, to check with them to see if they do intend to return to work, or if for some reason they do need to extend their claim. If they do need to extend, we provide them the recertification paperwork. If they plan to return to work, then we send a notification to both the employee and the employer. And then Eric's team will confirm to us that the employee has actually returned to work before we close our claim. That's just a very brief overview of the process, but we do reach out. And then there is also an initial call as soon as the claim is assigned to the case manager, where they reach out to the employee, go over everything with them, and answer any questions that they may have.
And
Thank you, Robin.
And one you mentioned asked me earlier for scenarios. One just popped into my head. So I'm pretty sure everybody in this meeting has had individuals that, for whatever reason or another, just never returned from a leave, or it's been weeks and we're not sure what's going on with them. Once it reaches that point, the leaves team will handle that, but we have the ability to track how many times they've been in contact with the Broadspire, so we can have a closer collaboration with labor relations in tracking people down that have either job abandoned or might be AWOL. So look for some improvements in that area.
Yep, I think that report will be a huge help for you, Eric.
Yes.
Michelle, did that answer your questions there? Wonderful.
Perfect. All right, well, that is all we have for today. I want to thank everybody for taking the time to go ahead and join us during this training session. Again, you have that reference sheet for portal support, how to go ahead and log into the portal, those instructions as well. So in the event that you do have additional questions, certainly let us know. But like I said, I think once you start logging in, clicking around, and getting yourself more familiar, you'll definitely start to have those questions in those scenarios.